Do you mind? I want to make sure I check him in. Welcome. Thank you again for coming to session 3. Just out of curiosity, who's not been to any of these yet? Has everybody been to one of the first 2 so far? Great. Glad to have you again then. We were just curious how many were mixing it up. We're really excited to continue this series. This is session 3 about the good fats. So Aaron's going to have some fun stuff for us there. This is, of course, sorry, I thought that was me. This is done in partnership with the Cooperative Extension Office. Like many of the library programs, this series is made possible by the Friends of the Library. And if you're interested in supporting the Friends, we have our big annual book sale. We're going to have it this year because last year was canceled because of Helene with everything else. So if you're curious about the dates for that book sale, I have some bookmarks at the table when you walk out. And if you just want to support the Friends, talk to me and I can help you with that. So like I said, this week, I don't know what week it is. This week is about the good fats. Aaron's going to have our demonstration as usual. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Cooperative Extension's Family and Consumer Sciences Agent, Aaron Massey.
Thank you, thank you. And I always want to thank my team for being here. Steve filming me in the back, which those videos, he's told me I have to review them this weekend or else. So I'll let you know, those of you who have asked about them, I'll let you know when those are posted. And Mindy Buford, my top volunteer, and Sue Chef, can you guys give her a hand? Like, she does all the behind the scenes stuff. Thank you. She helped me boil or steam. We steamed these eggs for this recipe. We did 18 yesterday, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is when you're piping them, and I learned a lot. So I don't know everything, and that's why I have wonderful volunteers who can fill in those gaps for me. So today, we are making olive oil deviled eggs, which are perfect because the holidays are just around the corner, and if you have somebody that says, well, I don't eat eggs because that study in the 70s said that they were bad for us, you can be like, no, no, no. I have the updated information that eggs are now back in favor. So instead of mayonnaise, these use olive oil for flavoring and for consistency. And that may sound pretty sketchy at first, but you guys, I'm going to make a believer out of you after today because we taste tested one with one of my skeptical coworkers, and it was a success. So all of you guys have the recipe in front of you. And if you lose it, where can you go for all of these recipes? The website. Everything's online now, and they've organized it by ingredient, so you can actually search by ingredient now. So that's easy, especially in the first session when I kept forgetting the name of the dish I was preparing. So I am doing just half of the recipe right now because I've already done the other half, so that you guys don't have to watch me cut up eggs for an hour. Like Emerald does when he pulls out a magic meatloaf from his third oven, right? We boiled all these ahead of time, and sometimes that can be really challenging to make deviled eggs. If your eggs don't turn out just right, or you don't let them cool, or you get too excited about peeling them too quickly, and you have all these chunks in the white part of the egg. And you can always cover it or hide it, and people really don't care because they're super hungry, and this is usually the appetizer. But for any of you that have done deviled eggs successfully and they turn out just right 90% of the time, we'll even say 80 because we live in a rainforest and humidity ruins everything. Does anybody have a secret that they want to share? Because I really want to know. We used an egg steamer, but what do you guys do if you make deviled eggs?
I have a recipe. I don't remember it. I'll have to look at it and come tell you next week. But it got down to the exact amount of time you boil the eggs, and the exact amount of time you let them cool before you get them. And then just getting a little. The last thing I do remember is just a tap on one end or the other to start.
Okay.
But I found they peel a lot easier when I followed that. Sorry, I don't remember.
So it's all about timing. Boiling ice bath to cool, and then it's all about timing, as you're saying. Okay. 12 minutes sticks in my head as the special number that I've always been told from 3 generations. 12 minutes boiling the egg. But if you go on Food Network and do the perfect boiled egg, it'll be significantly less than 12 minutes, but you leave them covered and leave them to steam in that boiled water for up to 12 minutes. So there's different variations, but if you have one that works, please share or share with me afterwards, and then I can, make you an anonymous source if it doesn't work and someone tries it. Yeah, Minnie.
And I agree with her. When I go to crack the egg, I start on either the widest part or either end. And I kind of just very gently crack it all the way around in a line and then crack it the other way. And
Okay.
just so there's a bunch of little cracks in it. And then when I go to peel it, if the shell's sticking at all, then what I have a tendency to do is put it under a little bit of running water, and it helps, the running water helps peel that shell off for me too.
The running water really did help yesterday. And like she said, you crack it all over. And I think gently, yeah, you don't want to tear up your egg white. But I think in theory, there's a lot of surface tension on that egg with the inner skin that's underneath the shell. And you really the secret is to really breaking that or it all sticks together. So when you have all these little holes all over it, it helps to get air up under it. So that's the deviled egg, part of the deviled egg secret that we discovered. And ours are pretty. Yeah, there's no holes. So, all right, so you got all your yolks. The main part of making sure your filling is safe is making sure it's completely hard boiled for the amount of time that you're supposed to boil. Again, 12 minutes or at least steamed. You don't want any wet yolk at all. All right, so, and even if you have some that are a little bit moist, but the other ones turned out okay and nobody will notice, just a hint of that could contaminate your whole batch, and yeah, they'll be leaving your Christmas party early. So we're gonna do Dijon mustard for a little bit of tang, and this is a half batch. Remember, we're just using 6 eggs for this one. All right, our Dijon, which seems to be in everything. All right. And then we're using our magic olive oil. Now, you may be looking at your recipe thinking, Erin, you're not following directions, right? You're correct. I'm following ingredients, but I'm not following directions today because I didn't follow directions yesterday before it was too late. And I want all of you to have the same experience and say, well, mine tasted good. But it worked and it was delicious. And this is the easier way to do it. And if I think there's an easier way to do it, let's go with that way. You can also do this in a food processor, and that might create a fluffier texture and give you a greater volume of your filling. But what we put in here, we put Dijon, we put our olive oil, and now I've put just a little bit of white vinegar. Now what if you don't have distilled white vinegar? What if you have a fancy white wine vinegar? Try it. Go for it. Let us know how it goes. Now, apple cider vinegar, it's pushing the border a little bit. All right. And I am going to whip some air into this by hand. You have any children or grandchildren that you're taking care of before a holiday event and you're trying to get all the cooking done? Put them to work doing this. Say, hey, show me how strong your muscles are. And then you get a break. Or you get a mess. There's 2 options there. And this recipe is missing something we have in most recipes, which is what? What is, Mayonnaise, yes. But not just pertinent to eggs. Somebody said what? Salt. Well, where is our salt coming from in here? Mustard. The Dijon actually qualifies in this amount. So in the teaspoon serving, if you were to only have a teaspoon at a time, is 120 milligrams of sodium, which is under 140, which actually meets requirements for a low sodium food. Okay, that's pretty messy and incoherent. Let's fix it with my spatula. Okay, all right, nice and fluffy. And then I'm gonna make a DIY piping bag. Some of you, if anybody makes cakes, does anybody make cakes and have piping bags laying around at home? Nobody? Perfect. Okay, so we're going to make one. I'm going to roll this down. And I'm going to fill it with my filling. Okay. Is this working? No, nobody can see any of that. Wonderful. Okay, let me put my hand down here. All right. I'm going to invert them. You can. I can't. Okay. We're going to make sure this is locked. All right, seal. When I did this yesterday, there are bags now that are made so they can just sit on the counter, and they're kind of like a square bottom, which are convenient for snacks, but not convenient when you're trying to do this. So don't buy the fancy ones. Buy the ones with the normal corners. Okay, getting all the air out of there. And there's air at the tip. We're going to make sure it's all squeezed into the corner, and we're going to twist. And then, hopefully without exploding, yes. I'm gonna make my own piping bag. All right. I'm gonna take my little eggs. Voila. If you have a Halloween party, you can put an olive on here, half of an olive right in the middle, and cut little legs and make it look like there's a spider on top. I've seen eyeballs too. If you have a green olive with a pimento, you could make it look like an eyeball. I'm not sure if that will deter people. Probably not if they're delicious enough. And for Easter, I'm going to steal Mindy's idea. Mindy takes beet juice, and she'll put the eggs in beet juice and make them look pink for Easter. Just perfect. All right. Now we get to make them look pretty. A little bit of mild paprika. You can use smoked paprika if you're feeling extra fancy. I'll put a fresh herb for garnish, especially at springtime. And there we have it. Deviled eggs without the mayo. Now, is it worth all the hype? I hope you guys are soon to find out. We thought so. Honestly, I thought they were going to be much worse than they were yesterday because I am not an egg eater, but these were delicious. And if you know me, I'm always honest. So I think they're pretty good, worth it. And even, this could even be a snack. Why wait until the holidays? There you have it. And I think Mindy is passing these out. Erin disappeared. Would you mind passing out the other ones? Would you mind being a Vanna White passing out? There's another tray of these in there. Thank you much.
They're delicious.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. There you go.
Aaron, I've got a question.
Uh-oh.
I missed the beginning,
So the oil and vinegar instead of the mayonnaise is because it's more Mediterranean friendly? What is it about the mayonnaise that would be considered the most unhealthy? Because it's egg and oil
It has a higher level of cholesterol.
because of the eggs.
It has a higher level of salt. It contains preservatives, which in and of itself isn't non-Mediterranean.
I don't do mayonnaise anymore, regular mayonnaise, because it has soy in it. I can't do soy anymore. So this is, tastes great.
And after this class, everybody's going to have an abundance of olive oil in their house. So why not try it? All right, so swapping your fats is today, and snacking on nuts and seeds will be the focus of today. To review, eating the Mediterranean way has a couple key principles, including, you guys know it by now? No? Eating fruits and vegetables in abundance. Making your grains, most grains, whole grains. Eating legumes and beans. Eating fish at least 3 times a week. Snacking on nuts and seeds, which we'll go over today. Switching to olive oil instead of saturated fats. Using fresh herbs instead of high sodium in the diet. If you drink, choosing to do so in moderation. Being active, being mindful of eating, and limiting added sweets in the diet, added sugar. So we went over change your protein. So that was the principles of the Mediterranean diet, and this is what changes that you can actually do. These are action steps. So we went over change your protein last week. Today we're going to talk about 2 and 5, which are swapping your fats and snacking on nuts and seeds. So a simple way to swap fats is, like we said, change to olive oil instead of solid fats. We're looking at liquid at room temperature. It can be used in cookings, dressings, and marinades, and consuming at least 4 tablespoons a day. And initially, that sounds like a lot, but we'll get into how that can add up quite quickly. So, we went over this a bit in the first session, but 4 to 5 people are still afraid of fat in their diet. And that comes from not too long ago, the 70s to the 90s, there was this fat-free craze with the idea that fat-free foods were going to be better for you. At that time, they were assumed to be healthier, and there's less fat-free items in the store if you go through now. Companies have decreased having multiple versions of their product over the last decade. Why is that? So instead of eating olive oil and all of these healthy fats, they got replaced with a fat-free product, which you took out the healthy fats or maybe the saturated fats, but then you added sugar or starches for texture. So instead of doing an oil-based dressing, you're then doing one that's high in sugar. And instead of snacking on nuts and seeds as a snack, people went to things like, oh, pretzels because they're fat-free. I don't know about you, but I don't know of like a high-fat pretzel out there unless it's like soft and covered in butter. So fat-free even became a marketing ploy. And even some candy will say fat-free, but if you eat over your calorie budget, that's where how excess energy is stored anyway. So it became a target for consumers as a marketing idea to get them to buy it, but wasn't a healthier choice. So what do we know? What are the good takeaway from that? What did we learn? Because if we're going to have negative health outcomes, at least what can we take away and move forward with from that? We know that replacing saturated fat with carbohydrates doesn't decrease your risk of chronic disease, and it certainly didn't decrease the prevalence of those diseases now, because we continue to see chronic diseases climb, such as heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes. Unfortunately, the rate is still going up. We know that consumption of a low-fat diet is not associated with decreased risk of chronic disease, like I stated, but it's also not even associated with a lower weight. So that was a big point of, if I'm taking fat happens, taking fat out of my diet, well, fat is the most calorie-dense macronutrient, So if I cut that out, then I'm decreasing my calories, but we didn't decrease our calories, we sought them elsewhere. Because you're not satisfied with your meal, you then tend to eat more of that food and eat more of those carbohydrates, which then digest faster. So that didn't work like we had planned it to. Replacing saturated fat with poly and mono unsaturated fats does have positive health benefits, and we'll look at some of those oils today. We also discovered that there is no safe level of trans fats. Trans fats, also known as partially hydrogenated oils, are now required to be listed on nutrition fact labels, and actually you'd be hard placed to find a label that has any trans fat. They're actually required to say 0. We're not supposed to have any trans fat in our food supply, but we do. Because like all labeling laws, there's a loophole. If you read on a label, and these are in processed foods, heavily processed foods, not all, that there are partially hydrogenated fats in the ingredient list. They are required by law to list it as 0 grams if it's less than 0.5 grams for that serving. So if there's 0.4 grams per serving, and you have 3 servings of whatever is in that package, you could be eating up to 1 gram of trans fat, which has no nutritional benefit at all, that we don't need in our diet. So read your ingredient labels when in doubt for partially hydrogenated oils. Or maybe avoid those foods when possible. All right, so the fat choice continuum. When we talk about saturated fats, unsaturated fats, this is a good visual to think of. Yes, saturated fats are solid at room temperature, and most of the time they are animal-based products. But there's a product up here that's not animal-based. Does anyone see it in the saturated column? Coconut oil. You guys, I don't know if you're like looking for like, oh, healthier dessert. And it'll be like, I used coconut oil in these brownies, so now they're healthier. But actually, when you look at comparison of the saturated fat content, coconut oil is more saturated than lard. It says oil, which is entirely misleading because it turns from a solid to a liquid very, very quickly. You can melt coconut oil in your hand. It's great in desserts. It holds its shape. That's why things like lard and butter are used in desserts. It has a neutral flavor, but it's not heart healthy. So don't let anybody fool you. All right, unsaturated fats. Here they're in 3 different categories. Omega-3s and omega-6s are essential for consumption because we cannot make those. We have to get them from our food supply. And we can make some of the mono unsaturated fats from those 2 things. However, all of these are good things. And we usually say these are plant-based foods, right? Oh, the good fats come from plant-based foods. But here again, animals are creeping in over here where they doesn't sound like they should be. What's up there? Talked about it last class. That's not plant-based. What's not plant-based that's up there? Salmon. Yeah, it's an anomaly. But salmon is full of omega-3s and a great source of that fat that is hard to get other places from our diet. And then trans fat kind of hangs over there on the side. There's not really a good picture of it without pointing out, specific products. They're man-made. Trans fats or partially hydrogenated oils are man-made. They're found in fried foods, so those don't always come with a label, but that's one of the big reasons other than just calorie density that we don't recommend fried foods. You're heating the oils to such a high temperature, beta oxidation is taking place, and it's changing the chemical structure of that fat, and it's something that the body has a hard time getting rid of. In past literature, it's been shown to be linked towards cancer, but I don't have any off the top of my head that I can provide that's within the last 10 years. But it's not optimum for health. That's the takeaway. We shouldn't be eating it. It's also in some convenience foods. When in doubt, look for hydrogen. So it looks like hydrogen, because when the structure changes, a bunch of hydrogens get added on. I know you guys are all going to remember that. So moving on, oils. And somebody asked me about grapeseed, and I see grapeseed up there now. This is my favorite visual. Out of 10 years of teaching cardiac and all of nutrition education, we go through different changes in oils, and this list continues to get longer as they create more. But this is my favorite infographic ever. Maybe I'm a nerd. But where's olive oil? We're recommending olive oil, right? Kind of right in the middle. We follow it over. So the green are the monosaturated fats, very stable molecules, very heat resistant. And then these blues are the essential fats that we have to get from our diet. We can't make them in our body. That's what makes them essential. Not many omega-3s. That's where the fish comes in, is important, right? But a little bit. And then on the lower end for saturated fat, which we want. So this really shows that nutrition's not black and white, right? There's a little bit of good and bad and everything. You lost my mic. Hello? Is it on? It's on. No? Is it dead?
Yep. I'll fix it. You keep talking.
Okay. Can anyone not hear me?
That's better.
Okay, so yell at you. All right, I'll try. All right, so where were we? Olive oil kind of falls right in the middle. Mostly unsaturated fats, but it's cost efficient and readily available. And that's one of the principal reasons it's recommended as one of the oils to use. And we'll talk about how to pick a good one in a minute. I also want to point out canola oil, which we'll fact check in a minute too. Canola oil is way at the top. Has the lowest amount of saturated fat out of all of these other oils. I've heard a lot of bad things about canola oils over the years from consumers, not from the science community. And I always wonder why that is, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the one thing that's really hard to get in our diet is those omega-3 fatty acids, which are anti-inflammatory, which are found in fish. Canola oil has 10% of it. So is that a good choice? I'd say absolutely. Something else I wrote an article about in the Tea Times is avocado oil, because that's really popular. It has great flavor. I'd also consider it a neutral oil. It has a similar smoke point to olive oil. It just tends to be more expensive. Nutritionally, it's very close in its fats. So if you like the taste of that and you can afford it, that's a great choice too. The oil you choose depends on many factors. Can it withstand high heat? What are you using it for? Are you using it for a salad dressing? If you're using it for a salad dressing, flavor is the biggest importance to me. What does that taste like? Sesame oil, you may not want to cook in a bunch of that because that's all you're going to taste. But using it as part of a marinade or in a dressing where there's a hint of that sesame flavor can be delightful. It really depends on what you're using it for.
Sweet German oil?
Huh?
Sweet German oil?
You know, I saw that on there. I don't have any notes about it, but it must be. They must be able to extract the oil from wheat germ because I've known it to come in a solid form, but a lot of these are extracted from a seed, so that would be no different. Have I ever seen it in stores? Sure, all of this is listed, but peanut oil is even popular to producers, but I've never seen it in a store being sold. So availability is another factor why olive oil is a good choice.
When you compare then the walnut and the almond,
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna call the walnut more healthy. What are you gonna do?
What? Have you ever cooked with walnut oil?
Well, just because you've got the omega-3 in it, but you don't have it in your almond.
I like that option. I like the option of, I like the benefit of the omega-3, which is why I pointed out why I like canola. Can you cook with it? Is it going to smoke really quickly? I don't know that off the top of my head. We'd have to try it out. Where can you get it from?
I was talking, okay, you're talking oil, I was talking more of the food itself.
Yeah, this is just looking at the oils, using it for cooking. Yeah.
The only problem with walnuts is it's so good to eat too many.
Ah, there we go. Yeah, we'll talk about that too. Okay, so debunking some common urban myths. Don't cook with oil. Yeah, olive oil. Most olive oil is actually fake, and canola oil is deadly. Some might even see the word toxic in places. Is there a danger with heating olive oil? Has anybody heard this before? Don't heat it up. You go to Greece, they're going to tell you, don't you cook with our oil, you'll ruin it. Okay? Why is that? Because the monosaturated fats are not heat stable. The heart-healthy components are going to be damaged. Heat destroys the omega-3 content, and olive oil has a low smoke point. We go back to this handy-dandy chart, and we look at olive oil. What percentage of that is omega-3s? Less than 1. Are we really worried about that? No, we're not. No, we're not. So that's a marketing ploy to get you to use other oils that are more expensive, right, for cooking. All oils oxidize. You get up to high temperatures with any oil, they're all going, depending on their temperature, they're all going to oxidize. They're all going to change shape. Thus, trans fats are created. But that temperature is really, really high. So to give you an idea, it's beyond 300 degrees. So the temperature needed to deep fry something is it starts at 350 and goes up to, I have the exact number, 375 to actually deep fry. When we're deep frying, we're not just sauteing it in a pan lightly and getting it crispy on the edges. We are submerging whatever food you're eating so it can get hot enough to cook it all the way around in a timely manner, right? That's what makes it delicious, by being encased in oil, right? Yeah. I'm not going to lie and say fried food's not delicious. It's not true. It is. Do I eat it? Not very often. But we want to avoid that, okay? So when you're cooking with this, it's not going to get to those high temperatures. Could you technically deep fry with olive oil? Absolutely, but the flavor in olive oil is going to change drastically compared to using a vegetable oil if you're going to use it for deep frying. I see a lot in the interwebs. The smoke point is too low. And if nobody knows what the term smoke point is, if you've ever left butter in a pan and walked away and then your smoke alarms went off or like your eyes got really teary, that's that beta oxidation and it starts to smoke. I always experience when I'm seasoning my cast iron, without a doubt. It gets really hot, right? That is the smoke point. The smoke point of olive oil is 392 degrees before it starts to smoke. What was the temperature for frying food? It gets up to 375, right? So that is not an issue either. So using olive oil to heating olive oil to cook is not an issue. Most olive oil is fake. Has anyone heard that before? Yes, okay. Well, you know what I'm going to say. It's not true, but why isn't it true? So this urban myth arose from tests carried out on oils between 2008 and 2010. And what were they looking for? They were looking for the label to say extra virgin, because the label or the term extra virgin has really stringent requirements. So when they look at if something meets the standard for extra virgin, they're looking at taste, aroma, and color and flavor profiles. And the oils that were commercial brands in that testing in 2008 and 2010, it's not that they weren't olive oil, it's that they weren't extra virgin olive oil. They didn't find any concern related to the purity, adulteration, safety, or substituting it. So you don't have to worry about your olive oil being mixed with vegetable oil. Is canola oil deadly? So this comes from the fact that it's a seed, and that seed that we use to extract canola oil from is also used as an industrial lubricant. And that sounds concerning, like, oh, we're using it on my car and we're eating it. However, if you do anything in commercial processing, there are lots of industrial lubricants as well as many other products. Take hemp. Hemp seeds you can eat on salads. They're great protein. At the same time, we use them to make clothing. So there are many industrial lubricants and other products that have a counterpart in the food system, but that doesn't mean they have a lot to do with one another. For more information about this, snoops.com can answer any extra questions. I'll leave that there. All right, so don't cook with it. Olive oil is fake and canola oil is deadly. Those are not true. All right, so how much olive oil do you need? The recommendation is about 4 tablespoons a day, 3 to 5, depending on your calorie range. So that seems like a lot, but it actually adds up pretty quickly. If we walk through a day, you put olive oil on toast in the morning instead of butter. If you haven't tried it, I really enjoyed this. I made garlic bread for the kids with their spaghetti one night, and I used olive oil and a little bit of garlic powder instead of garlic butter or garlic salt or any kind of butter. And they didn't say anything, so I'm hoping they don't know the difference. Vinaigrettes. So we're not just talking about cooking with it, consuming it in its uncooked form as a vinaigrette on your salad can add up very quickly. Here we got heavy-handed with salad dressing, very easy to do. And this is talking about just a couple teaspoons out of the day will get you there. Not even a tablespoon, but if it's in your calorie goal, you could definitely use a couple tablespoons. Roasted vegetables. So if you really want to optimize the crunch and the caramelization on your vegetables when you put them in the oven to roast them, spraying them with a little bit of olive oil instead of steaming them, that fat is going to really up the flavor a notch by making it a little bit sweeter and a little bit crunchier on the top. And then sautéing. So it definitely adds a lot of flavor to use a little bit of olive oil in your pan instead of steaming everything. A lot of the fat-free craze was focused on just steaming in the pan or boiling. We don't have to do that anymore. So you can either saute it in this, or if you marinate it ahead of time in a bag with an olive oil mixture, and I'll show you some of those options, you don't need to put anything in the pan, and you can just sear it with that marinade still on it. All right, so.
And the bread with the olive oil, in southern Spain, they always serve, that's olive country, that serves olive oil with the bread. They could find out who the Americans were because they say, don't you have any butter?
Oh no, so you're saying in Spain they always serve olive oil with it and the Americans are asking for butter? Yeah, it's kind of like us going to a different country asking for bacon. Like when we get a piece of ham, we're like, no, this is not what I ordered. And they just look at you crossways. Yeah. All right, so instead of buying prepackaged dressings, it's recommended to make your own. And with the excess of olive oil you have now in your home, you definitely will have the ingredients to do that. So what's kind of the secret for making your own dressing? What are the minimal ingredients that you actually need? Number one, something to make it in. A jar that actually seals. Like, don't try that out with water before you get dressing all over your kitchen. An acid. If you have the right amount of acid, sometimes you don't even need salt. But that's going to help balance out the flavor. Olive oil or a different dressing. If you're doing an Asian style dressing and you have sesame oil, use what you have on hand. Get creative. And then, of course, your seasoning for whatever you're doing. Med Instead of Meds has a great citrus salad dressing. I think I made this. I had orange juice in it. I've used it on kale. I've used it on just spinach. It's absolutely delicious. Or the balsamic Dijon. Another way to use up that Dijon mustard that you had to buy for the eggs. All right. So, do I have any questions about dressing before I go on? I do want to mention, if you use less processed oils, or this is or you're not used to making your own dressings. These oils are not winterized. Winterized oils are refined and they're made to withstand cold temperatures so that they do not solidify in the fridge. Because that's not room temperature, right, anymore when it gets below a certain degrees. So even unsaturated fats can solidify in the fridge. So if you have regular olive oil and it looks great on day one, nothing happened to it if it's solid in your fridge. You just take it out 20 minutes before you're going to serve your dressing and it'll liquefy again. All right, so I got this question last, I think the very first class. How do you buy a good olive oil? What are we looking for? The first thing is we want it to be in a dark bottle or can. And some of them are offered in glass bottles. Why? Any unsaturated fat exposed to light is going to begin to break down. So by picking one in a dark bottle, even a dark plastic bottle, it's going to increase the shelf life. You got the same thing with a lot of vitamins. I mean, milk. You ever wondered why milk is in an opaque container? It's because the vitamin D will break down when exposed to light, like it's supposed to. So, dark bottles, importante. All right, increase the shelf life. I talked about extra virgin today and pure olive oil. What's the difference here? Anybody know what the difference is? Nobody wants to share. Okay. All right, so extra virgin is a sign of quality. And that's what they were testing on when they were comparing labels. They were looking at quality specifically. Just because it does not have that stamp does not mean it's not a healthy oil to choose. It might actually be less expensive and a perfectly fine flavor. The flavor in the extra virgin could be, you might see the name robust. This is the first sometimes cold pressed. It's the first pressing of the olives and tends to have the strongest flavor and honestly the best quality. You can use them for different reasons, okay? So pure, other olive oils may not have that same flavor, but it might be cheaper and might be great to use in cooking because you're not looking to overwhelm whatever you're heating up with an olive oil flavor. You're looking for the vegetable or the protein or the grains to be the star of the show, and the olive oil is taking a back seat. It doesn't change the nutritional property, it changes the quality of it. So instead of cooking it with it, you're on a budget, use this one and use the other one, the extra virgin, for your dressings or marinades. Or forget about it and just buy the extra virgin and just have one olive oil and just don't, yeah. Your choice. Yeah.
Why can't you use canola oil, which is supposed to be that better for you than olive?
You absolutely can use canola oil.
It's probably cheaper too, isn't it?
It's, that's a good question. That's a good question. I see a lot more olive oil sales and olive oil varieties than I do finding canola. But I'm always looking for it, and I know what brands I'm looking for just because I trust the flavor of it. But you can certainly use canola oil for any of this. All depends on what you're cooking and how the flavor of the meal turns out. All right, we're doing good. All right. At first, the side was a little silly, always look for the best by date. Don't buy old olive oil. Yeah, we know. But the reason I kept this here, this is the open date. So they want you to open it by this date. And then it's recommended to be used in 30 to 60 days. Let's think about that. If you open a bottle of olive oil, for best quality, use within 2 months. I don't know about you guys, but I'd be hard-pressed to use a bottle of olive oil in 2 months. Especially when you buy them on sale and you buy a whole liter or gallon of olive oil and you're like, yeah, that's going to save me money. And then the best quality is used within two months. Yeah. Is it going to make you sick? No. No. The flavor is going to change over time. That's all I got to say about that. Just some food for thought. Okay. All right. Here's some interesting labels. If you ever wondered, product of Spain and made in Spain are the same thing. It means that it was basically bottled there. It was made there, but the olives could come from a completely different country. What? True, yeah. And then the 100% Spanish labels mean that the olives in that product are from that country. So I wonder if you combine them and see, oh, 100% Spanish and made in Spain, you got a whole Spanish product and olives. Bottom line is that all of these are great choices. You don't need to worry about them. But if you're looking to source locally, and it says product of USA, and this would be called an added value product. It's not just the olives. The olives could have come from somewhere else. I don't know of anybody who cold presses olives in the U.S., but no. Nope. Yes? See, I don't know the answer to that. I'm going to have to go to Ingalls and do some detective work now. Because they grow a bunch of grapes, but as far as olive producers, I don't know of any. Let's find out together. Okay. All right, snacking on nuts and seeds, and I heard this table has it covered. They're already doing that. Yeah, so snacking on nuts and seeds, but if you eat too many, right, it's easy to eat too many. My grandmother always says, eat them like peanuts. You can just sit there and eat, and then they'll be gone. And you guys, they have a lot of energy. One of the reasons that gives us brain energy, but you can definitely eat too many. The recommendation is only 3 ounces a week. This doesn't mean that this has to be your only snack, but it should definitely be added to the snack rotation. So at least 3 ounces a week. What does that look like? Not enough. What does that look like? A handful. A palmful is an ounce. 3 times.
Oh, 3 times a week?
Yes.
Oh, that's fair. That's
Yeah.
just one.
Yeah, so that's about 1/4 of a cup. 3 times a week as part of your snack. Another great, or proportioning it out, and I don't know how long these have been in here, but I'm going to show you guys anyways. You can also get these cute little packs, or you can buy in bulk and portion them out yourself because you can't eat too many, and they are fat and they are very calorie dense. However, they're also high in fiber, so they're going to keep you fuller longer than cheese. Well, yeah. So, snacking on those.
Peanut butter.
Yes, sometimes.
So not recommended.
We'll talk about that. But leading into that, what kind of nuts should you be picking? Walnuts are high in omega-3s.
Pistachios are really good.
Pistachios are great for your brain. Pumpkin seeds are full of magnesium, great for cramps. There's no wrong answer, except for the ones that are like covered in sugar and honey roasted and yeah. Go with what you feel. Change it day to day. Nuts are a great addition to meals, snacks, side dishes. Eat more of them. Eat them more often. Let's say that, put it that way. So instead of eating some of the refined options that have come out, like a protein bar or a fruit bar, get more fiber, less salt, a little bit of protein, and some healthy fats. A great combination to stay full. Pair it with fruit if you're still hungry. Nuts and raspberries are something my kids had for a bed night snack last night, Pair it with a vegetable if you're trying to be more calorically conscious and you're like, oh, I just ate lunch, but I'm still hungry. Okay, add a non-starchy vegetable. Nut butters. You mentioned they might have a lot of sugar, and the answer is yes, depending. It depends, right? But without any sugar, sometimes they fall flat, and they're trying to market towards the consumer, right? So if you're picking a nut butter, you can't take almonds and rub them on a sandwich and expect it to be the same consistency as your peanut butter and jelly. So sometimes we do need nut butters, but it's important to note that they are more easily digested. So we actually burn more energy, called the thermogenic effect of digestion. We actually give off heat. I always tell my son, he's like, I'm cold. I'm like, eat more and you'll make some heat. Anyways, we burn more energy by digesting fiber and by digesting protein. The nut butter is going to have more, it's going to technically contain those things. It's also going to have sugar, which is easily digestible, but it's already broken down. So our stomach acid doesn't have to work through and digest that. So the nuts are actually going to stick with us longer and stave off hunger longer than down in a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That doesn't mean PB&Js don't have their place in society. But we need to be careful when we pick out the nut butter we're going to choose. So these are all versions of peanut butter. I bet that one's Jif. But if we're looking at ingredients, let me read some of these for you because they can be kind of hard to read from here. So the first one is peanuts, palm oil, and a little bit of salt. This product has 2 grams of sugar for every 2 tablespoons, all of which are naturally occurring. So some of the sugar is just naturally occurring. So if we look at total added sugars, there's 0%. So this is the most natural you can get. This is going to separate. It doesn't have an emulsifier added to it. Oh, I take that back. It has a little bit of palm oil. Palm oil is going to serve to keep it together. But there's no added sugar. Added sugar only serves to add us energy and flavor. So nutritionally, unfortunately, we don't get a lot of benefit from that unless we're looking to gain weight. Or we just really want to satisfy our sweet tooth, and that's okay too. We eat for different reasons. The one all the way on the right contains peanut oil, honey, and salt and palm oil. So that has 5 grams of sugar for every 2 tablespoons. So we just went from 2 to 5, so doubling it. Probably because that honey's in there adding additional flavor. 1 gram is naturally occurring, so it contains 4 grams of added sugar per serving. So those extra 4 grams per serving, if you have multiple tablespoons, could add up pretty quickly. And we don't really need any of that extra energy unless you're a child and you're burning through it. So, something to think about. All right. And the sugar serves more than one purpose. Sugar, and I found out this last night, actually serves as an emulsifier along with the palm oil. So some of these higher sugar nut butters, the sugar actually serves the purpose of keeping it together and keeping the oil from separated. But if the oil doesn't bother you at the top, just stir it in, you'll be fine. All right. We're going to return to talking about portion sizes because, as you said, it's easy to overeat, and it doesn't, in front of you, that never seems like enough. Like an ounce doesn't seem like enough, and it wouldn't seem like it's enough of a portion anymore because of something called portion distortion over the last 20 years. Our portions, I don't think I'm telling you guys anything you haven't heard before, that our portions continue to get bigger because they want you to make sure when you go out to a restaurant that you're getting your money's worth, right? And as such, some of the fast food companies will bulk their foods with fillers, more sugars, more carbs, to make the meat the same size but maybe not be 100% beef. Those kinds of things are happening so that we feel like we're going to be full when we see something, not reading our internal cues. So we're responding externally to food. And research shows that unlike children, adults don't compensate for large portions with a smaller portion later. So children have this innate ability to know when they've gotten enough calories. That's why parents of preschoolers often worry when they eat a giant lunch but then don't want to have dinner. Oh, well, they're not getting enough to eat. But if you look at their calories over the course of a day, they're doing just fine to maintain or hit growth spurts. Adults lose that over time, and part of that is societal pressure. So if you eat a large meal, we don't automatically eat less at dinner. But I think we probably know that. So what can we do to help that? Well, make sure you're having your fourth cup of nuts. Or measure it out ahead of time. Put them in a tin or a plastic bag or a to-go glass container that's really cute. You can tell I have a couple. And put them together so that you plan your snacks. Because when you are hungry is a bad time to make great healthy choices, because you're going to pick the first thing in front of you. And no one wants you to be hangry, right? And when we're feeling bad, hunger clouds our judgment when we're making healthier choices. So plan ahead. Portion out your nuts if you're buying in bulk, or, oh no, buy these cute little 100-calorie packs and don't forget they're in your book bag. Okay. All right. What about meat? And I talked about this again the other day, but it's about the size of your palm, right? Not including fingertips. Yes. Or a deck of cards is another idea. But when people get a big hamburger, it doesn't look like it's very much to eat. It's a lot to eat, but they're also not comparing it side by side with what 3 ounces looks like. I mean, that 7-ounce piece doesn't look that much bigger. And it is. It's more than double. So it can be quite elusive.
Are those white buns there, are they healthy?
We'll talk about grains coming up. That's a good choice. But,
Believe
you
it or
know,
not, the color doesn't play as much as you might think.
no, it doesn't.
The color does
It
not
doesn't.
play as much as you might think it does.
But it's a good portion
Well, that
size,
surely isn't full of
regardless.
grain. That's white powder.
Neat.
All right, so
What's that?
cheese. So you're looking for an ounce of cheese at a time, which is about 2 dice. That's a more difficult one. I like to say either like 1 slice of cheese or the string cheese that you give kids are typically 1 ounce. So if you're doing a snack and you want to boost your protein and that 1 ounce of nuts is looking pretty lonely, you want to add some low sodium, low fat mozzarella cheese. Low fat because it's low saturated fat. That's a good idea. A fist is about a cup if you don't have measuring in front of you. If you go out to eat and you're like, wow, it's a big bowl of rice, and you compare it to that and you're like, yeah, it's like 3 cups of rice. Probably want to do about a cup to a cup and a half. Is a good portion for most people for carbs. And at least, you can always do more, a cup of fruits and vegetables with your meal. All right. I like to talk about cereal, because that's always I don't want to single them out. That's always many people's go-tos, bed night, like, I'll just get a bowl of cereal, right? But a bowl of cereal is not a serving of cereal, just like a glass of milk is not the same thing as a cup of milk, and those calories multiply. And our dining ware plays a big part into how much we eat sometimes. So we want to be mindful of what a cup actually looks like versus the 3-cup bowl you see filling up. Forever, for the rest of your lives. Mindfulness, so paying more attention. So if you choose to go home and eat a 3-cup bowl of cereal, enjoy it, but know this is 3 cups. And I am satisfied with this decision, but the point is to be mindful of it. All right, but when you go home, you're able to make those choices. For when you eat out, you don't know how much oil is being added to that food. Even if it's a commercial kitchen, you don't know if the chef decided to add a little something, something. And I know that happens because I worked in a hospital where the chefs aren't supposed to be adding a little something, something, but they do anyways. I'm not going to name names. I love him. But the point is you have more control when you eat at home, and you can choose your portions more wisely. And starting with the dishware. Are you using a 12-ounce glass when you're drinking milk, and then it's multiplying the servings of milk? Are you using a giant dinner plate instead of a salad plate to start with your meal and saying, is this satisfying? Because I tell you, if you get a giant plate, you're going to try to fill up that plate if you're extra hungry, right? For if you get the same meal and a smaller plate and you fill it up with a smaller portion size, it might be easier to evaluate your hunger cues and see if that was actually satisfying. And you can always go back for seconds. It's your house. Only your family's going to know. And maybe you're hungry. Allow yourself to eat if you're still hungry. There's always more. Make sure there's always fruits and vegetables around to pick more. That concludes today, but I just wanted to show you guys, if you haven't looked at the Med Instead of Meds website, there's tons of recipes on there to try out. We did that one today. Even with nuts, like elevate your snack game here. Rosemary, chili, almonds, I mean, delicious. Take those to the Christmas party if you're not an egg person. All right, well, same one with walnuts if you're trying to get those omega-3s. Adding nuts to fruit salad for an extra bit of texture. And I will see you guys hopefully next Wednesday for our next chapter. Thank you very much.